Hey, John Bond here from Storm Fitness Academy. I'm going to carry on talking to you about periodization. Can be a very complex topic. Previously we talked about what periodization was, so it's basically long-term planning with the idea of getting continual improvements and gains, avoiding any regression, avoiding any injury, and avoiding any overtraining. And we discussed previously, is that important for beginners? Well, we decided it was. Yes, it is important because, even though you get your newbie gains at the start, you're not going to have those forever. So get the planning in early and avoid the plateaus and overtraining. But what is a suitable periodization method for a beginner? Well, when we start off with, you're going to spend a good 6, 8, maybe even 12 weeks of learning all your movement patterns and just sort of conditioning the heart and lungs, getting that base level fitness, endurance and strength. And with that, we're really looking for mainly is a term called anatomical adaptation. So that's what's happening in the first period. Now you can do that with what we call traditional block periodization. So with block periodization, you choose a number of weeks and you choose your training systems, your reps and sets, and you grind those out until the end of the block. And with your newbie gains, you should just each session be able to add a little bit more onto the bar or increase that speed a bit more, add a bit more time on, and just gradually progress session to session. So you don't need to overcomplicate things. Just stick to your given rep range, your given set range, your given exercises, and just look to progress each session across that block. Now, a block typically is 4 weeks, but a block could be 8 weeks, could be 12 weeks. With it, like I say, with the newbie gains, most newbies, you can grind it out for quite a while, so you probably do 12 weeks. So that's all about the anatomical adaptation. Now, we don't just want to plan that. Ideally, we want to plan out the whole year, the whole 12 months. When we do a long-term planning, like 12 months, we normally refer to that as the macro cycle. It could be 4 years for an Olympic athlete, but generally most of us tend to work in 12-month blocks when we're talking about long-term planning. So you look at your macro cycle, and across that year you think, right, what do I want to achieve across that year? And it's going to be linked to your long-term goal. So if your long-term goal is, with most people, is just want to be the best shape I can possibly be within that time frame, which is usually something involved with dropping some body fat and gaining some hard, dense muscle. So to do that, we first do our block of anatomical adaptation, get that body ready to lift some weight. We don't want to go straight in there with heavy weights. After that block is done, now we can start to ramp things up. So going into the next block, we can work on some lower rep ranges but lifting some heavier weight. So we might have done 3 sets of 10 for our first block. Now we're going to move on to 4 sets of 8. So we're lifting heavier weights, the intensity's gone up. Now if we went straight in with that rep and set range, because we're lifting fairly heavy, we risk damaging our muscles, our tendons and our ligaments. But now we've built some strong ligaments, some strong muscles, strong connective tissues, we can start lifting heavier. So we do that for a period of time. Then after that block, we might move on to what we call a strength block, where we focus on some even heavier weights, drop down to something like a 5x5. So we've got 5 reps, 5 sets. So this is going to be the heaviest weight you've lifted so far. Now, because we've been building up to this, we're going to get some good adaptation because it's subjecting the body to a stress it's not accustomed to. However, we have built the infrastructure and we've built the chassis, however you want to call it, in order to do that safely. So just to recap, we're talking about block periodization, which is pretty typical for a newbie trainer. Your first block is going to be focused on anatomical adaptation, which is going to be the higher end of the hypertrophy scale. You might even look at doing some more endurance stuff, so reps 13 to 15. Less sets, 2 or 3 sets, and you're just going to focus on that for a while. Going into your second block, we're going to move to the lower end of the hypertrophy rep set and range, and we're going to go for 4 sets of 8. Then After that block, you can then move on to a strength program, which focuses on a lot heavier weight. So we're going to be looking at the 5x5. So that's your block periodization. There's arguments for other types. We've got linear periodization and we've got undulating periodization. For beginners, it's open to debate, but as a team, we've discussed it here at Storm Fitness Academy, and we think block periodization is your best, safest form of periodization to begin with. So let me know if you've got any questions, or if you want to challenge anything of what I talked about today, then feel free to do that as well. Cheers.